Okay, so welcome to session two of the Allsorts Growing Together DIR block. And today I'm going to talk to you about supporting your child in engagement. So last time I gave a lot of information thinking about the individual differences, and the individual differences part really impacts on this first step of the DIR rung, which is being regulated, managing to stay feeling okay within your body, so that you can look at the world outside of your body when you're really stressed, when you're overwhelmed, when you're really tired, when your digestive system's not working very well. Then it's really hard for us to be bothered to look outside of our bodies and connect with other people. So we always think about that aspect when we're supporting our children. Do they feel okay internally? And one way of supporting them to feel better internally and connect with us is through our relationship. All of your children are invested in a good relationship with you, and all of your children will benefit from supporting their ability to emotionally connect so that they can also form interactions and relationships across their lifespan through big feelings, through joy, through warmth, through happiness, but also through other feelings such as sadness, anger, frustration. All of those feelings we embrace in the DIR model because they're all normal, natural ways of responding. We just want to help the children to manage those feelings in relationship with others. So we focus a lot on engagement and really look towards helping the child to play, but play with us as well. We can celebrate the fact they love building, making towers, looking at cars, being on the trampoline, but we really work hard on helping that child also enjoy sharing those moments with other people. Because across their lifespan, that's a skill that they can use to their advantage when they are in class, making friends, when they are going out there and trying to persuade people to do things for them or get things for them, and making relationships into older adolescence and adult life as well. Okay, so here we have a mum and their child sharing a moment, and you can see that they're emotionally connected. They're not looking at each other, they're physically warmly related. And that's what we really want, for a child to feel warmly related to others. And you are the best supportive base for them to practice that with. Warm relationships with parents sow the seeds for the ability to realize that adults are fun to be with, and I talk about all the time how we can be the honeypot that supports that child to want to gravitate towards us rather than to move away from us. And as parents, you really hold that in your hand all the time, and you can share that information. How do you change yourselves to support your child to really feel good in your company? And how can the professionals around that child change their selves so that the child can also feel really good in their company? Really important information for nurseries, really important information for babysitters, really important information for anyone who's coming to help out in your home. How can they adapt themselves? Because the DIR model is really about adapting the adults to match what the child is needing, especially with tiny kids, which all of you have. When we're thinking about tiny kids, it's not about manipulating the situation so they behave differently. Children will behave in the best way they can in the moment, given the scenario that they're in, and they will learn strategies to get their needs met. And if their emotional needs are being met through warm relationships of shared joy, then their strategy will be to look for more emotional interactions and more shared joy because it makes them feel good. But in situations where their emotional needs are less met, then they may be more, they may find it more useful to use maybe negative behaviours to get their needs met. If they're at nursery and staff are busy with other people and they're feeling a bit vulnerable, this is a busy place, and I'm feeling a bit vulnerable. I feel like I need a member of staff near me. It may be that then they pull out some behaviours out of the pot that gets the staff over to them to meet their needs, but it may feel of a less positive way of getting that. So we're wanting to provide really many opportunities for the child across their day to feel warmth, to feel joy, to feel love with others. And again, that they can then pursue those interactions because it's so fulfilling. And then they use their communication to keep those interactions going, to support them, to again share their emotional selves with others. So this little girl is sharing her emotional self with her mummy in the moment with the book. And I always talk about sharing their emotional Bluetooth. Okay, so you can't see it necessarily, the messages going from one brain to another, but it's almost like, you know, the way we can't see Bluetooth either. But in this child's brain, she will be feeling this sense of calm that her mum is sharing. And in the mum's brain, she will be feeling this sense of love that this child is sharing. So their brains and their bodies are adjusting to this very positive emotional moment between them. And that's what we're going to be looking for as much as possible for your children. Okay, so what does emotionally connected look like and feel like? Okay, the child will notice your presence. You will sense, you know, if you walk in the room, you will have a sense that they know you're there. The child is emotionally cottoned on to your presence. And we see a change oftentimes, particularly when mums come in, or dads come in, or key carers come in, that the child, you know, very often will change their behaviour because they've emotionally cottoned on to their attachment person in the room. You may well be looking for that gleam in the eye. Okay, the child's face lights up. There's mummy. There's my carer. There they are. Oh, you know, and we really want to celebrate that joy. So, you know, and I know as well that sometimes adults, this is the key thing in the last kind of 20 years, I guess, since smartphones came out. You know, we might be distracted, we might be looking downwards, and we may not share that gleam with our child. So then the child doesn't return the gleam because children will give the gleam when they get the gleam, and they'll build up that kind of capacity within them from many experiences of shared joy. So we're really wanting to support that child to enjoy adults and other kids, but first of all, when they're learning about connecting emotionally, it will probably be with adults who can adjust to fit what that child is looking for, or older siblings. Really socially strong kids can also provide this role model. And that joyful interaction through the gleam, through the sound, through the squeaks of delight is the area that we're thinking about. So the child's ability to anticipate, when mummy comes over or daddy comes over, you'll see with non-verbal kids, you might see them kind of get tense or excited or look towards or maybe lift their arms up. Something's happened that shows that they're anticipating the parent maybe playing with them or doing something with them. Okay, and when children are emotionally connected, then they're taking in your nervous system. And actually, what we see is, you know, they can feel your love, they can feel your comfort. Sometimes when our children are really unhappy and distressed, they may not be able to take that big feeling in. Oh, it's too much, I'm running away. But what we want to use is our ability to regulate our child at capacity one, get them into that space of not being overwhelmed, so that we can feed in our warmth and our love and our comfort to their nervous system to help them even more be able to be regulated and emotionally connected with us. When they are emotionally connected with you, you can soothe them more easily. You know yourselves when the children are under the table, when they're hiding. It's really hard to calm them down. But I really encourage you to think about how you can find ways to layer in some of this calm for them. Because with little children, it's quite stressful that they might think they have to calm themselves down. And particularly children who have layers and layers of individual differences that are barriers for them to get calm. We want to find that kind of nice middle road of you providing some warmth and comfort, even if it's slightly at a distance. If they don't tolerate your presence when they're really overwhelmed, maybe you just want to stand a little bit nearby. It's so stressed, it's too much, I know. Yeah, and that at least then the child knows that you're with them emotionally, and at least then the child knows that you're protecting them from a safety point of view, so that those two things are all set, and then in time their nervous system will trust that they can come back to a calm state and they don't have to be in this fight, flight, distress mode in order to survive, that you're with them and you will also help them survive. And that sounds like survival, that sounds like a big thing. You know, your child's not in danger from a survival point of view, but they are in their survival system when they're in this overwhelmed state, melting down, fight, flight mode. All of those are survival, primitive survival mechanisms that young kids will go into frequently because they are absolutely 100% reliant on adults to help them survive, but that we will all potentially go into at times when we really feel that our survival is being challenged. Okay, so, and I've already led into this seamlessly, eh? When we're thinking about supporting children in their emotional connections, we really want to make sure that your child's survival and safety needs are being met. And because of their individual profile, they may go into survival state for things that you wouldn't necessarily notice were survival issues. So a big noise might send them into a fight flight mode, and you might not be bothered by big noise. But we want to reassure the child, oh, that was a big noise, but you're safe and I'm here and we're going to be okay. And we're going to share that in your nervous system signaling. We're not just going to say, you're fine, don't worry, it's okay, let's go, gotta go, because that's quite stress provoking. But we're going to share our calm with them. Oh no, that was so noisy. You got so stressed. And sometimes we use less words as well when a child is heightened. So more sounds, more sharing your body system so that they can feel your calm. All of that will help the child know that you are feeling safe in this moment. And if mummy or daddy or carer is feeling safe, then it probably is actually quite safe after all. Make sure, again, this baseline of supporting your child's emotional kind of connections, then we want to make sure that their bodily needs are being met. You know, again, children will go into survival if they're hungry, if they're thirsty, if they've got digestive issues, if they haven't slept, if they don't feel well, you know, because for a young child who's not in a good physiological state, you know, then their needs aren't being met and they may well go into again that lower brain cry out, I need help here, my needs aren't being met. So make sure again that we've noticed. And some children will maybe feel hungry quite a lot of the time because they're not really full, because they're not eating enough. And I talked last time about interoception. They may not pick up on their body's cues. So we have to be the detective, because even if they don't know they're hungry, from a conscious point of view, they may still go into this survival system. Their lower brain will know that things are risky here and we need to pull in support. So again, with young kids, we're making the decisions. They're not coming to get food, but they still could be hungry. Let's see how we can support them accordingly. And again, make sure your child's sensory systems, sensory needs are being met. In that, again, we can compensate for things being too bright. Make sure that environments aren't too noisy for them. Help them get more deep pressure input if that's what calms them down. See if you can allow them to do some spinning if that helps their nervous system feel better. All of those things will help a child know, okay, everything's working for me today. I'm safe and people get what my needs are. So sending a strong message that the adults are looking out for them as well. When things go well for a child, when a child knows that the adult is on their side, when the child knows that the adult understands them, then they will gravitate towards that adult. And this isn't necessarily for parents because you do this all day long, but for staff around your child, if the staff can be equally intuitive about your child's individual profile, then the child will want to hang out with that staff who makes them feel safer. That's a really, really important way of setting up emotional scenarios to help that child start to involve in them in interactions. Okay, all right. And then the other part of it is, we also want to share ourselves emotionally. If we want a child to emotionally connect with us, we want a child to sustain that engagement with us over 5 or 6 back and forth interactions, or maybe even several minutes of an interaction, or just presence together doing an activity, then we need to be emotionally available. Again, this is a mum who's totally getting her child. She's sharing joy with her child. She's in this moment together. This mum is not necessarily, well, she's definitely not on her phone. She's not necessarily thinking about other things. All day long, as parents and carers, we're kind of juggling that, being present with your child whilst managing the, thinking about work stuff, or wondering how we're going to get the shopping in with a busy schedule, or processing the argument that we had yesterday. All of those things stop us from emotionally connecting with our kids. So we want to just be mindful of, here in this moment, I'm going to spend some time shoving those things to the side and being fully present for my child as they need from me. If we think about life up until the last 2 or 3 generations, and I'm not saying we go back to the olden ways, but up until now, there was usually a carer very readily available for children in the past, an attachment figure readily available, in that typically mums weren't working, they were typically at home. Not always the best scenario, but what I'm saying is that children had that availability, and now we have very different expectations, and the child needs to maybe find strong relationships with multiple attachment figures, and not just with mum, and then growing into family dynamics. So we want to bear in mind, that all the adults around that child, especially your kids who are so vulnerable and need much more help, they all need to be able to offer themselves emotionally to your child, be available in the moment so the child can pick up on that emotional signaling, and then, really feel that togetherness in order to want to interact with you. Woo, woo, woo. I'm all about wooing. Yeah, we want to, that child, your child, particularly, if you woo them, then with love and joy and fascination, then they will woo you right back. But we need to start the process as well. This is wonderful. I'm loving being with you. You're so adorable. So they feel that from you. We work really hard on this emotional connectivity, because lots of your kids will be really vulnerable to this, won't know how to navigate them without your support. And when we do this right at these early stages of development, again, there's every chance that their emotional brain will provide bigger networks, stronger highways, be more regulated, less likely to go into this stress mode, more likely to go into this relationship building mode, if we get this groundwork right. So showing delight, showing joy will be your main tools in an authentic way. Don't make it false, but notice stuff that you can be joyful about. Pick on every single moment that you're able to share. Wow, that's great. But share it with your facial expression, share it with your tone of voice, share it with your every fiber of your being, because your child will notice if there's a disconnect between what you're saying and what you're doing. If you're on your phone and you say, yeah, that's great, I'm really happy, then the child will know it's not really great, is it? But if you really delight in them, they'll feed off that. It will be fuel for their own emotional brains, and hopefully fire up more signaling between you. You are the best toy they have. You don't need to spend money. If you've got a pillow and a bed, then that's a fantastic big soft play experience for them. Children need adults to be playful with them, especially when it's a struggle for them to play for themselves. So children who are really strong in playing will do the work to get the adult over to their play activity, but children who are not strong at playing will need the adult to do the work to join them in their play activity. And we do this through emotional signaling together. Okay. Get into their groove. Yeah. So again, seamlessly into joining the child in their world. How do we join them? Rather than getting them to join our ideas and us, little kids with young brain, early stages of development will struggle to shift their attention to what your agenda is. Much better to join them in what they're already loving. And sometimes we can do things like copying what they're doing. I don't know if any of your children, notice if they're doing something and then you copy them. And sometimes you'll see children, like, I don't know, they're doing a little dance, and then you do a little dance, and then they're like, ha ha. And they do a little dance just to see, are you going to do a little dance again? And then you do your dance, and they're like, oh. And then maybe, they then consciously do different things to also see if you're copying. You've already got a connection then, haven't you? And they've already learned, mummy's really noticing me, really into what I'm doing. And then they can start to lead you. So we want children to pick up and start to lead in interactions. That's a skill, again, that they can take across their lifespan. Rather than just responding, we want them to notice that they can also drive the interaction forwards, and then use those skills to take that to school, interact with their peers, and interact with their teachers as well. So copy what they're doing or make the sounds that they're doing is a great way to get their attention in something they're already thinking about. Slow down, slow down. Little kids, little brains, so much to process. The slower we go, but with animation, so we're not boring, then the easier it is to process. And what I tend to do, and you'll see me in the group, I tend to exaggerate what I'm doing, use lots of expression in what I'm doing, and so that the child can kind of feed off that exaggeration energy, but also process what's happening between us as well. Reduce your language. All of you know this already, at these early stages of language development, then we want to not burden their thinking system too much to process cognitively, especially when we're working on the emotional connection. If your child struggles to connect emotionally and we go into cognitive speak stuff, then that's going to be so much for them to manage that they may not be able to do the emotional signaling because they're so busy listening and trying to think of what's going on. So reducing your language when you're working at this stage of emotional connection is going to be really, really important. Increase your mother ease or your father ease or your daddy ease or whatever it is. Yeah, so this tone of voice, really important for a young child's brain to have this sort of sing-song voice. It's easier for them, and no surprise really, all of you will know to use this kind of way of being with small kids. It's almost like it's kind of like built into our own brain networks, our carer networks. So and we know that it's super helpful for children to listen to our voices if we are using this interesting sing-songy. So singing songs is great, but using that tone in your conversation as well. Play sounds are fantastic. All of those things will help the child notice you, find you easier to process, and want to be with you because it feels so nice. When we're following a child's lead, when we're noticing what they're doing, we're going to notice all their cues. What are they showing us? Are they making sounds? Are they giving us a look? Are they moving towards us? Are they moving away from us? Noticing those small things helps in time your child know how to start to use specific things to interact. So if they learn that you notice that they walked away, then maybe they'll walk away in future to show you that they don't want an activity. Or if they know that you notice them make a delighted sound in certain situations, and you've responded to that, then maybe they might make more delighted sounds intentionally, again, for you to repeat the activity. So by noticing what they're sharing, we're actually feeding into patterns in time that they can use intentionally now that they realize they've had an influence on you. I drop the cup, you go, you pick the cup up, they know that they've got you to do something for them. That's all the same. If you notice what they're sharing, then they start to realize I can do things intentionally, and you'll notice them as well. And that's the beginning of communication. And then the last one, some of you will be like tearing your hair out going, it's so busy, it's so stressful, I've got to do all these things. And now I've also got to be delightful. Good grief, Denise, what do you mean? Be delightful. Again, you with you and your child playing together, if you can both play in delight and fun and joy, then you will both want to keep this play going. I want for you as parents and carers to not want to go and do the washing, just to want to carry on playing with your child, because it feels so lovely for both of you that you both benefit from this. When we do these parent trainings, it feels a lot of the time like you've got to give and give and give, but actually in a gorgeous attachment with your child, you are also the receiver of the joy and the love and the calm and that closeness. And we want it to work for both sides. So being delightful and being delighted, and also allowing yourself to be adored by the child are ways of having that back and forth positivity between you. So happy playing. I hope you found this helpful and interesting, and yeah, have a good week. Bye bye.